Okay, so let's keep going with some of these examples. Let's take a look at example C. Now, for example C, we are going to use y equals x squared plus 2x minus 9. And we're going to use this example. First thing you might want to look at is if it's factorable. It is not factorable, so we don't even need to try that. And we are going to first state what our a, b, and c terms are. So my a, my b, and my c term. Remember, a is right out front, b is right out front, and c is our c term. We have 1, 2, and -9. Please make sure you're writing that every single time so we don't get confused. So I'm going to rewrite our quadratic formula. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b in parentheses squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That way we have it. You might be still writing on the same piece of paper, but it's really good to have that on the top of every page that you're using your quadratic formula for. So our b, we have the opposite of b, so -2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, which is -9, all over 2 times a, which is 1. So taking a look at this, we're going to start simplifying. If you're using a calculator, that's fine, but please be very careful with how you're typing this in. So we have the opposite of b, we have -2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared is 4. Now, we have a -4 times 1, which is 4, -4. -4 times a -9 is a positive 36, all divided by 2. Okay, so now that I have this, we're going to simplify this further. I have -2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 36, which is 40, all over 2. Now this looks great, but from our lesson from the other day, we now know how to simplify radicals. So we need to see if 40 can be simplified. So we're just going to scooch on over on our paper, and I'm going to simplify the square root of 40. So that means we take 40 in our backwards box, take prime numbers only. So I'm going to divide it by 2. That gives me 20. I'm going to divide by 2. That's going to give me 10. I'm going to divide by 2. That gives me 5. So when I'm simplifying the square root of 40, I'm going to circle my group. That gives me 2. On the outside, we have a 2 times 5, so we have 10. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my square root of 40 with 2 root 10. These are the same exact thing, it's just in a different form. So -2 plus or minus 2 root 10 over 2. Okay, I'm going to give you the answer in 2 different forms. We're going to do our exact form, and we're also going to do our approximation. Approximations are going to be decimals. Exact form is going to be radicals, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I ask you for the exact form, see how we have a 2, and a 2 all on the outside? These numbers on the outside, as long as they have a greatest common factor, we can simplify them. What is -2, 2, and 2? What is the greatest common factor of those? Good, it's 2. So we're going to divide each piece on the outside by 2. -2 divided by 2 is a -1. Still with our plus or minus, 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. Root 10, can't change that, so it stays all over 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Okay, that gives us 2 answers. It gives us -1 plus 1 root 10, technically over 1, but we don't need it, we also have -1 minus 1 root 10. And these would be our two exact x values for this quadratic. Now, if I asked for an exact, I'm looking for my answer to be in radical form. Now, if I'm looking for an approximation, that means I want you to use a calculator and give it to me in decimal form. If you are using decimal form, we are probably going to be graphing this, right? Because this is going to be really difficult to graph, where my decimal form will give me exactly where I need it. So in my calculator, what I can do is I can take these two numbers that I got here and type them right in. So that's going to give me -1 plus the square root of 10. That gives me 2.16. And since this is approximation, we want to use like our squiggly x equals. Then we're also going to do x minus the square root of 10. Oh, sorry. I need a negative out front. So -1 minus the square root of 10, and that gives me also approximately -4.16. And these are our two approximations of the answer. These two answers are the same exact thing as these two answers. They're just in a different form. One is in simplest radical form, which is a little bit of work, and this is going to be our decimal approximation.